normal, my normal video filming place for like the first time in a million years. It feels good. So I'm here to talk to you today about my new study routine and how I've kind of settled back into things since being back home. And this is sort of in line as well because Shannon's month, this month for Language Study Club, is all about how to learn vocabulary. So I'll be learning from that and taking that in, and then also kind of applying it to what I've already developed as my new little study routine. If you want to learn more about Language Study Club and you want to join yourself, then you are more than welcome. Click the link in the description below. So let's talk about this then. When I was, I don't know, somewhere a couple of months ago near the end of our trip, I decided that when I got back, I decided long ago, like in Paraguay, that I wanted to continue learning Guarani. I knew that I wanted to restart Korean because me and Shannon are going to go to Korea at some point soon. And I also had this sort of realization that I wanted to also sort of look back at other languages I've studied along the way as well. Because it was getting to the point where people would say, how many languages do you speak? Oh, and I hate that question to begin with, but I'd be like, well, this, and then kind of this, and a bit of this, and it was just too complicated. So I thought, let's have a look, let's go back and sort of revisit some languages that I previously studied and then kind of just ignored for years. But I was really thinking, well, how can I do this without putting too much pressure on myself of saying, well, now you're learning like 12 languages or whatever, something crazy, right? That's not going to be good for anyone. So I've come up with this idea. My daily routine, I have my little hour in the morning of language study from Monday to Friday, and I have 20 minutes of Guarani, 20 minutes of Korean, and then 20 minutes of that other language. And those other languages, there's like 10, so it's on a rotation, which works really nicely because that fits then with a 2-week sort of rota. And I know it doesn't sound like much, like 20 minutes of a language every 2 weeks. You know, I'm not going to be fluent in like a month. All of a sudden it's going to just pop back in my brain. That's not going to happen, obviously. That's not what I'm expecting. It's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to just refresh and like look back to what I've done, and then also look forward and learn new stuff along the way with those other languages that I've previously studied. And what I'm doing each day kind of varies a little bit. I tend to have like a focus, I've noticed, for each language because I've been kind of getting into it a bit casually over the summer. So I've found that with Guarani, this one is like my main sort of course book that I refer to begin with. And I don't just go through and do a unit, mainly because it's kind of really weirdly set up. So it's not in like lesson 1, lesson 2. It's just like, here's a thing, here's some translation, here's a vocabulary list, here's a dialogue. You know, it's very lot of in some kind of coherent order, but not like in a unit of stuff, if that makes sense. So it's quite hard to use it in that way, but that's good because it helps me, because I can look, for example, I've got my little bookmark from El Lector bookshop in Paraguay, and it's like translation exercises. It's in Spanish as well, by the way, which is really good. So then it's like this sort of 3 language thing going on. My notes for Guarani, by the way, are just ridiculous. I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, I'll look up a word, okay, so it means that, and I write it down in Spanish because my dictionary is Guarani to Spanish and vice versa. And then I think, wait a minute, what's that in English though? So there's like this weird sort of 3 language step thing going on. But yeah, so like the translation stuff is there, and then there's some grammar stuff. And so what I'll do is I tend to take like one at a time. Like, I've only got 20 minutes, right? One at a time each day, and I will use that as a basis to think of other stuff. And that other stuff at the minute tends to be this. So this book I bought in Peru, so not long before we went to Paraguay, and I used it at the time. When did I start this? The 10th of the 3rd. So yeah, we were still in Peru at the time. And I used it to write down like 1 page a day, and there's 13 lines. So it was like 13 sentences each day that I'd write down. And I'd try and do it myself. Sometimes I'd be feeling a bit lazy or tired at the end of the day, so I'd copy them out. I'd just do like a Duolingo or a closed master session and copy out the sentences from that. And I'd always mark it, like this one says, Duolingo, domesticos dos. So I'd write it if I did that, so I know that I hadn't done it myself. And I kind of got out of the habit as we went through and across to Asia. It just didn't happen. So I wanted to sort of bring that back as we've got home, and it's good. I find this really helpful as a way to practice that stuff from there. So that's really nice, and that's one of the other things I do almost every day. And then for my Korean time, I have this set that Katie from Joy of Languages very kindly sent me like before I went away when I was learning Korean. And this book is what I'm working with at the minute, so the essential, like the first book in that set, and I'm just working through it gradually. And again, kind of like that little blue Guarani course book, I'm just taking a chunk at a time. So it's like Grammar Builder 2, work it out. So I just take a chunk and then find something else online, because the sort of style of this book is quite hard to learn everything and follow for me. So I need that bit of extra like explanation in another way. Does that make sense? So I'm using this as a base and then expanding out from there. I was finding with Korean before that it was really tricky to know like what to do. You know, like it was just a difficult language for me to learn. There was like a blockage, it wasn't going through. And then because there was this blockage, it was like I was telling myself that there was a blockage and I couldn't do it, and it was like, Korean. So I went through the Solo Language Learner Planner and did the pages that were relevant for me with Korean, including my onion goals. So I did like the advanced one where there's like the 4 kind of cross sections of areas that you want to improve. So normally that'd be like reading, listening, speaking and writing, yeah? But for me, my focus is going to Korea. So it's conversation, speaking, listening and reading signs and menus, etc. So the reading is like very specific stuff that I imagine I'll be reading. The listening is general listening to improve. The speaking is general speaking, and the conversation is that two-way of the listening and the speaking together, so actually combined. And then my goal is travel happy Korean. That's my little goal in the middle of the circle for that. And then in my final 20 minutes, I love this bit because then it's like almost like playtime at the end of the whole thing, right? So then I bought this book, 712 More Things to Write About, and so far it's been amazing. I've been sharing this on Instagram, so if you don't follow me already, Lindsay Does Languages on Instagram, and you'll see sort of my answers to some of these writing prompts, which are hilarious. Some of them are really funny, like, let me see, write about a time in your life when you narrowly escaped some terrible fate, but change the ending and write as if the terrible thing actually happened. So they're quite long and specific. Some are really short, like, happy families are not all alike. Ooh, that's dark. My favourite one, I think, so far was this. It's winter and you've just moved to North Dakota. Write a postcard that makes Californians jealous. It's like, I have no idea what North Dakota's like, this America-centric book here. So I just kind of guessed and wrote a little German postcard. But it's cool, like I've, you know, so far I haven't written in Italian, German or Chinese for years. So it's really nice because whereas with speaking, there's that instant pressure, you know, it's a thing that happens instantly. And although it's temporary, generally, it's instant. It has to be quick, it has to be there. You have to know it right here and just choo, choo, choo. Whereas writing, you're still creating and producing the language, but you have a chance to sort of reflect and think and use a dictionary and use some books to kind of process it and put it together. And then once you've got it written, once you've got it checked, you can then use it for speaking as well. So it's all good. So I'm finding this really fun and really helpful. And then as well as that, I try and like end with something kind of a little bit fun, like a song. Maybe I'll use a song to break up each of the sections, but normally just at the end. So yeah, that's my daily thing. But as well as that hour, I've also got a little something for each of them. So for Guarani, I do Duolingo, just one session every day until at least I've got to the whole like 2 times round the whole course for that. With Korean, I've got a Memrise course I'm working through, the one that Memrise have created, which is helpful, but I'm not yet doing it every day, but I'm trying. I'm also using drops as well. And then for the other languages, I'm using Closemaster as like a little refresher when I have the time, you know, in between, you're waiting for the kettle to boil, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my daily. And then the weekly hasn't happened yet, but I'm planning to do a weekly italki session in Guarani and a weekly session on italki as well in Korean. At the minute, like September's insane. I'm doing my first triathlon for some reason, and then at the end of the month I'm running a half marathon with Ashley's sister because it's going to be her first half marathon. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it if you do it. Why did I say that? So I keep signing up for these things, I don't know. So all the weekends are like crazy and taken up, so it's not going to happen. Probably in October, hopefully, maybe I can start, but then I'm going to Croatia and Slovenia, just life, you know, I'm just talking about life. I just need to fit it in and do it, right? And then monthly, so every month I'm gonna use my planner goals that I worked out for Korean. I'm gonna use the free planner as well that's on every Clear the List post to just like figure out, okay, what do I wanna do? Where do I wanna be at the end of the month? And also the review side of things. So not just planning ahead, but also looking back, because the looking back helps you to plan ahead, right? So I'll be doing that using the free planner and the Solo Language Learner Planner as well. And then also Clear the List. So if you don't know, Clear the List is a thing me and Shannon host. So Shannon, that I host Language Study Club with, we host Clear the List together. Clear the List is a blog kind of like, I don't know what you'd call it, a link up, I don't know, where you can, like, if you have a blog, even if it's just like, you know, a free website, whatever, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be fancy. You know, you can use that as a place to document your language goals. You can connect it to the Clear the List, and then you're in this community of other people doing what you're doing, learning languages, setting themselves goals and supporting each other. It's really fun. So yeah, that's my other monthly thing that I'll be doing. I think that's more or less it. In September as well, I'm reading a lot of Guarani. Shannon's hosting a language reading challenge, just a 30-day one. She has like the annual thing as well, but she has like a 30-day one in September to read like as much as you can in the language you're learning. So I'm going to use this book, which is like sort of children's nursery rhymes and poems and little tiny stories. Some are in Guarani, some are in Spanish. I thought at first when I looked at it in the shop, I thought, oh, it's like bilingual, that's cool. Then I realised it's not, it's just they're different. So it's fine. But I've been looking at the Guarani ones in particular and sort of taking it slowly. So I'm hoping I can finish this book by the end of the month. We shall see. And there we go. But that is not quite it, because I'd love to know about your language learning. Let me know in the comments below what your study routine looks like. If you've ever had to change it up and give it a drastic shake up, how has that worked out for you? And how do you study vocabulary? If you're really struggling with vocabulary, if it's an area that you think, how do I study vocabulary? You know, I know what to learn, I just don't know how to do it and get it in there. Then Language Study Club for you this month could be perfecto. Not only do you get access to that for this month's worth of content, which is a video lesson in week 1, you get a workbook in week 2, you get a mini challenge in week 3, and in week 4 there's a live Q&A where we talk together and you can ask any questions you like about language learning. Then you also get all of the previous stuff, and we've been going now for like almost a year. So like October 2017 was the first month, and then we've gone through and all of that old content is still there, so you still get access to everything, which is amazing. So yeah, links in the description below if you want to join. And that is it from me today. I will see you hopefully next week for a new, like, regular again, hopefully, language learning video. I will see you very soon. Thank you, bye.